大家新年好！
大家新年好！
大家可能今天都看到了我们的春节联欢晚会一档节目《Young Bot》。那么机器人跳舞，为什么它能跳起来？我们今天就请来了位置 Robotics 机器人老师 Mr. Mitchell 给大家今天讲一讲。So Mr. Mitchell, we have one performance in the Chinese New Year called the Young Bot. They're dancing on the stage. You can see here. It's amazing. So we would like you to talk about the robot. Why is the robot so important right now?
Okay, robots are taking over many jobs. So we can find robots in agriculture, we can find robots in hospitals now. There's robots in restaurants, robots everywhere in manufacturing, in production, in transportation, and even in your home, your sweeper, your floor sweeper, floor cleaner, and there's robots that make coffee for you now, and even robots that make food. If you go to the restaurants, there's also robots in the restaurant that even serve food now. So robots are becoming part of our lives, and they're more integrated into society. And even things that we don't think are robots are actually robots. Robots can be mechanical, electrical, and they can be programmed. So there's a lot of different ways to use robotics. There's a lot of different ways to make them work. And so this creates a lot of jobs, and it changes the way we need to learn and the way we need to do things.
So now we know the robot right now in the society more popular. So how can it affect the human society?
So if we look at robots like Boston Dynamics and some of the other robots in society, people are now actually building robots that help elderly people. So they're digital robots that act like dogs or humans that can talk to elderly people without having a human there. So robots are becoming very advanced, very much more advanced. Also, we're sending robots into dangerous places where humans would have to wear suits, protective equipment, and so on, and endanger themselves to be able to go there, like in fires or in mining industry and things like that.
So now, how the people adapt their robots and then prepare for the high technology society?
So people are getting used to robots. They're starting to interact more with robots, but robots are getting more complicated. So now there's a new industry and there's new things coming out. So we have to educate ourselves. And kids growing up today, they have to learn to program robots. They have to learn to understand how robots work, because they're going to be fixing the robots. They're going to be designing robots. They're going to be the ones that are going to be creating new technology using robots. So for instance, robots have motors. And if we look here, this is a simple example of a robot that could be used in manufacturing. There's a brain. So there's a computer that tells the robot how to work. So you program the robot, you install the program, and the program decides which motors are going to work, when they're going to work, how they're going to work, and how fast they're going to work. So this is a very basic example of a robot. And students need to learn to design, they need to learn to troubleshoot, they need to program, and they need to be inventive and try new things to simplify the process, make things work better or easier and more efficiently. So here we have another example of a robot that could be used in farming or somewhere in transportation. So the previous robot didn't have any wheels. It was more manufacturing, how to turn something on or off or change something. This robot here has wheels, so it can move on the ground. So a different kind of robot where it could be used in farming or things like that, or harvesting. And so here now we have an implement and we have wheels. This robot needs to be programmed, but it needs to find the location. It needs to find what it needs to do, where it's going, and how it's going to get there. So this is where mechanics meets programming. So they have to program a robot, and you want to make sure that you program it so it doesn't collide into anything, it doesn't run over animals or things like that. So now you need vision, you need all kinds of sensors and all kinds of different electronics to make this robot self-sustainable and self-directed. In our next video, we're going to talk about how Wiz Robotics actually starts to teach kids about mechanics, about robot design, about circuits, electronics, and also how to program the robots and how to incorporate sensors and so on. So stay tuned, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. We're looking forward to see you next video.